Have you ever seen or been on an airplane and wondered, how does this fly? Well, let's find out. First, we need to talk about the different parts of a plane. The main body of a plane is called the fuselage. This normally stores the cargo, passengers, and the pilots. The front of the fuselage is called the nose of the plane. In addition to the fuselage, a plane has wings and a tail. Let's take a closer look at the wings. Each wing has two flap-like mechanisms, the ailerons, which are closer to the end of the wing, and the flaps, which are closer to the fuselage. Also attached to the wings are the engines. We won't be getting into how these work, but they help the plane move forward at a very high velocity by generating a force called thrust. Now, let's take a look at the tail. The tail also has multiple flaps. It has the rudder, which is the vertical flap, and it has the elevators, which are the horizontal flaps. Each of these flaps control a different aspect of the plane's rotation, called the roll, controlled by the aileron, the pitch, controlled by the elevators, and the yaw, controlled by the rudder. These allow the plane to steer. Before we continue, we must talk about forces. According to Newton's third law of motion, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. This means if I push on a table, the table is also pushing on me. This force of the table pushing back on me is called the normal force. Now let's talk about the forces that act on the plane. Gravity is the force that pushes down on a plane, and while it's on the ground pushes back up on the plane, the normal force, causing it to stay still. However, in order to make the plane rise, or fly, we need a greater force pushing up on the plane than the force pushing down. This upward force is called lift. Lift is generated by the wings of the plane while it is moving at a very high speed. It is increased when the flaps are slightly pointed down. These flaps being pointed down creates a pressure difference, lower pressure above the wing and higher pressure below the wing, generating this upward force. This is how the plane takes off. The last two forces acting on the plane are thrust, which propels the plane forward, and drag, which pushes the plane back or slows it down. Let's recap what you know so far. The plane moves forward on the ground at a very high speed. Then the flaps and elevators are slightly lowered to tilt the nose of the plane up and increase lift. This allows the plane to lift off the ground. Once the plane reaches its cruising altitude, it needs to balance out the forces acting upon the plane, the gravity and the lift, and the angle of the plane. This is done by adjusting the elevators, which will change the angle of the plane, and the flaps, which will change the amount of lift acting upon the plane. Now, to land the plane, the opposite must be done. The forces pushing down on the plane, the gravity, must be greater than the forces pushing up, the lift. The elevators are lifted slightly to bring the nose of the plane down, and the flaps are lowered more than during takeoff to increase drag and decrease lift. This is what allows the pilot to make a smooth descent and landing. There you go. Now you know the basics of how planes fly.